What's going on, guys? It's Lucas here. So I have a Sky Striker list for you. I went to a Invitational for my locals and I guess team, uh, and I played Sky Striker. It was 29 players. We played 5 rounds of Swiss, cut to top 8, and then it was a 100% store credit payout. First got 170, second got 120, third and fourth got 70, and then 5th through 8 got 35. So that was kind of cool. A little bit different from like getting just packs or boxes or whatever. It was kind of like you get credit and then you can kind of use it whatever you want, boxes, singles, packs. So it was a cool difference. $20 entry, so it was a decent prize pool. I wish there was more people, but it was still really fun. I took Sky Striker. I've been tinkering with the deck for a long while now, and I always find myself coming back to it. And the other deck I was on was like Eltergeist, and I was on Drytron. I have like a lot of deck cores, but those are like the main 3 decks I usually play around, take around with, and just kind of see what I can do. Drytron's honestly pretty solid this format. I know a lot of people said it was dead, but I've seen it still doing a lot of good things, and it's pretty crazy. But unfortunately, it loses to like every floodgate under the sun, and it has a problem playing through them, especially when you said your opponent can't play the game. Whereas the Sky Striker is a lot more versatile, so that's why I really like this deck. So to dive on into the list, we played 3 Ray and 3 Rose. I've always been a 3 Rose girl or guy. I don't know, I just can't fathom people playing less than 3, because like every time I don't see a way to play, I want to cry. And so with these and then the Road to the Hornet Drones in the Engage, you have 9 starters, and if like I don't know, if one gets stopped, then you don't play the game at all. But I mean, I don't know, 9 just doesn't seem enough for me to play the game, so I play as many as I can. I'm really looking forward to the new quick play spell that summons to the extra deck. That'd be kind of cool. And then hand traps, we played a heavy hand trap lineup, so that way I can always like flex going first or second and just try to simplify the game state, and then let the Sky Striker engine do its thing where Kagari Shizuku every turn. So 3 Ash, just good. 3 Bell, really strong this format. Every deck can get hit some way or another from this card, except for like Sword Soul really, but it's whatever. You win some, lose some. But for real, like this on like Prank Kids and Brave and PK and like so good. I don't know. I always like this card. Bell is like my thought and true. And then 3 Valor just because we do the Hulk 5x combo. It's still just a really good card to combo with Nibiru, which is still very strong in this format. I even Nibiru'd a Flunder player twice for the event, so that was kind of crazy. That's not usually something you get to do, but he just kept going and going and going in the birds, and it's like, all right, we'll nib again. Surprisingly, I mean, I nibbed him twice in the same game, still lost, because that deck is just insane once it gets going. And then 3 Joel. So we can put the brakes on a lot of decks. Droll, the other option was Ghost Ogre, but I wanted to try. I think Droll is just good against almost every deck in some way or another, especially with Brave running around everywhere, or Adventure, I should say. So it was just putting in work. Definitely a fan. I don't know. I kind of like cards like Ghost Ogre because it does like that. Ash and Bell does trade with cards where like it's making them neg, whereas like a Droll is just preventing them from play for the turn. But sometimes you just need a card that ends a person's turn, especially when you're playing a deck like Sky Striker that needs to slow down the game state, So this card is really cool. And then doing the 3 imperms just to show you there with all the hand traps, so the 18 hand traps. So the only thing that changes maybe these for Ghost Ogres, but honestly Drolls were almost always live, so I think it worked out just fine. And the Ghost Ogre has some matchups where it does nothing, so it's kind of a ripperoni. The only other thing I thought about, which I was trying, was Lancias instead of Bells. And Lancia hits almost every deck in one way or another this format too, like especially the best ones. Hits Water Enchantress, so it hits the Adventurers, hits Prank Kids even to an extent, hits the Roxys, hits obviously Phantom Knights, hits obviously Flunders, hits the 10E part of the Sword Soul, like hits pot cards almost every deck that plays pots, like hits Virtual World, like so it's Lancia is just really good. But Bell again obviously just like hit on like a Bow Wow or a Dodo or whatever. Or do. That's just so strong. Spell lineup, 3 Widow, obviously. 3 Shark. 2 is usually more commonplace, but I was liking 3 because if you draw one of these going second against any Scythe deck, you like instantly don't care about the Scythe anymore because you can just banish the Scythe out of their graveyard, and then they can't like Scythe you again with like if they try to blow up the Dagdalite or whatever. Like that just interaction never comes up. It takes the card off the field, or prevents the card from coming to the field, so that's just crazy. Obviously great against any like DPE stuff, like yeah, sometimes I sided the 3rd out, but usually against any graveyard related deck, this it's always stayed at 3. I cut the jamming waves for the third shark, so I still maintain my Sky Striker count, but I just wanted something that was a little more impactful going to second and a little more reliable. I like jamming waves. I hate drawing it usually. I love searching jamming waves though. And then 2 afterburners. I've always been a 2 of. There's so many times where I resolve one and I just search another with engage and then blow up 2 more cards, you know? That way I don't have to keep adding it back. I don't have to waste my Kagari on this card. I don't have to waste Multhrow on it. Yeah, 2 has always been the way for me. The 1 Hornet Jones, obviously. The 1 Airspace. Never want to play more than 1. Otherwise it'll just brick on multiple airspaces or airspace into airspace, all that crazy stuff. Still really nice to have though. 1 Multhrow, obviously. The 1 Ego Booster surprisingly came up so many times for me. It's just so crazy helping me resolve like so many effects. And also like you can like, I mean there's even you can end on like an access code per se, and then if you have an Ego Booster set, like that access code is surviving until the next turn. Like it's just nuts. So this card put in so much work. I wouldn't play more than 1 still, but still really cool that it exists. And then 1 Engage, obviously the bread and butter of the deck, the plus city, you know. And then that's the Sky Striker count. And then just the 3 generic spells. The Rhoda, the Upstart, and the Called By. All good cards. No reason to explain any of those. They do what they do. That was the main deck. It is 40 cards. We'll move on to the extra deck. We have 3 Kagari per usual, 3 Suzuki Avi, 3 Hayate. I could do 2. Thought about playing a Hida instead, but in the trap matchups and the slower matchups, the 3rd Hayate comes up a lot. I don't think it came up at all yesterday, nor did the Hida, but so I might try it again later. But I was writing out the deck list and I was like, okay, 2 Hayate, and I thought to write a Hida, and I was like, no, I don't want to come to a point in the game where it's like they have less than 1,500 life points, or I need to send 1 more spell to the grave, or I need to like dump a raid in my grave, and I don't have the Hayate. Like I just don't want that to happen to me. The 1 Kaina, obviously, I joke about playing 2, but because that can stop a lot of potential OTKs, but 1 is fine. If we had more space, maybe we could play 2. 1 Zeke, so good. Obviously, you just need it. Just so many applications with that card. 1 Dark, the best familiar possessed of, or sorry, charmer, I should say, of the format. You know, stealing their DPEs is always pretty cool. Yeah, good card. I'd love to combine it with Hida though, because Hida is like so much easier to access because you're always making Kagari, so you always have fire. But Dark is pretty easy too, because Ray's a Dark and Hornetrones is a Dark, so that's like really cool. And obviously, if you steal a Dark, then you just link into this as well. So pretty cool stuff. And then obviously the Hulk 5x combo. I've always loved it, and I always will. Just helps, you know, end the game if they're at 5,300, or if they're at 68 and you don't need to use your normal, then you can put a Ray or Rose on the field. Potentially more if you haven't made Kagari. So yeah, the Halki Celine access code. Good stuff. Side deck. We got the token, which for some reason is expensive now. So the Lancias that we didn't main, that we honestly could have. Did I wish I do? Maybe. There was definitely some matchups where it'd been kind of cool just to have a Lancia main deck, but it's fine. I don't know. We'll take a around with it. 3 Token Collector, which I think is significantly just really, really good this format. It's like way better than it ever has been. Like Sword Soul is not playing Drop It or Chalice, and if they are, then you might maybe just playing Drop It. So they don't have as many outs of this card anymore, and so this card is just crazy if it sticks on the field, especially, and also against Brave Prank Kids, but Sword Soul especially. Like that's a deck that I usually struggle with, and because the deck is just so resilient to hand traps. But if you put this card in the field, they can't do almost anything. And if you can combine it with like a Veiler per se, then they can't box it away, and then they just really have nothing. So card is nuts. Definitely play it. The fact that I can summon back from the graveyard is also even more nuts. So it's like, yeah, once you see 1 in circulation, like they're just gonna struggle the whole game. The only card I play for going first is Shared Ride. Other options would be like There Come a 1 or Summon Limit. I don't like those because they get blown up by back row removal, and the natural response to Sky Striker is to side in like cards like Twin Twister and Lightning Storm and Harpy Feathers Duster. So it's like those cards aren't going to do anything. But cards like this is really good because it either, you know, they'll say, okay, you let me draw cards into more hand traps and probably end up getting nibbed or something, or you just pass turn and then I get to set up for engage draws. So really good card. Other good cards we could play would be Dimensional Barrier, obviously very strong card, very chainable. Like I said, I love chainable cards. This has more applications though for even going second against Flunderies. Because Flunderies, you know, they'll search with Robina, and then and Eglin on your turn. So if you have this card, you can, you know, chain it to the Robina or whatever, and then you're getting a pot of greed literally on your turn. So this card is just always good against Flunders, and that deck can be pretty annoying once it gets going. So you just need to shut it down ASAP, or, you know. And then for just back removal cards, we did 3 Cosmics, probably one of the best ones of the format because Banishing is so good. And then 3 Twins. No Typhoons, no Lightning Storms. I don't know, I wanted something that was more chainable, something that could hit stuff in the standby too. They hit like Pandemonium, hit Schism, and then just also play around the Sky Prison guy. Because otherwise you would never really be able to with like a card like Lightning Storm or Feather Duster. And also works against cards like Anti-Spell and stuff. So it's a pretty cool card. I didn't play against really any back row decks, so it didn't really matter too much. But it's still nice to have the option, because obviously you don't want to lose to like a random like Eldlick or Mystic Mine or Eltergeist, whatever. I didn't have Typhoons for Eltergeist, so if they hit me with a Secret Village, you know, I'd have to like normal summon a Veiler, and then I could use one of these. But I don't know, I was just kind of taking the bet that there wouldn't be many Eltergeists, because trap decks aren't doing so hot this format. They're in a rough spot. Even with 3 skill drain, they're still in a rough spot because they can't play going second. So unless they win every die roll, then I guess they're the best deck of the format. But otherwise, they are not in a good spot. So Sky Strikers is much better in that sense because we can play going first or second, and mostly second. I mean, I'm blinding second, so I'm making it work. But it's because all my cards are usable right off the get-go. I don't have to set them and wait a turn. Played really well. Matchups, I mean, I can go over for funsies. I did document them. I beat Flunder in round 1. I beat Sword Soul Tenyi. I beat Brave Kids. I beat Brave Phantom Knight. I lost to Brave Dragon Link in the last round of Swiss, but honestly, I mean, I already knew I was in top 8, so I just kind of didn't really care if I won or lost. I made like a pretty safe play. Well, not safe, yeah. I don't know, it was a pretty safe play of instead of like searching a Widow Anchor with my Engage, I just held my Engage and then searched on Afterburners for follow-up. And put him on. Can you OTK me? And I had a Bell and a Shark Cannon, which was definitely not enough because he just went crazy. He went off and more than OTK'd me, but it was okay. Like I said, I was gonna make top 8 regardless, so I'm allowed to make dumb plays. And then in top cut we beat Adamant Surveyor Prank Kids, and then in top 4 we lost to Brave Prank Kids. And that was like game 1 was like I only drew a nib going second for game 1. Which is obviously not enough if they have the access to the Brave engine. So I mean, I forced it to get the Griffin off the field, and then I drew a nib for a turn and was able to nib him on my turn, but didn't have a ton of follow up and ended up just not being enough. I think I ended with a Ray and a Afterburners in hand, and then I ended up drawing a Ray for turn. So if I drew like maybe another like relevant spell card, then I could have done some stuff, but that was not the case unfortunately. So we ended up getting 2-0'd. And then the Flunder player that actually beat round 1 ended up winning out the whole event and winning the event in top cut. So that was kind of cool. I mean, he probably should have beat me. He scooped game 2 kind of early and then went game 3 and then bricked. So game 1 I actually nibbed him twice, which was pretty cool. Which is something you never actually even get to do against Flunders. But he summoned like every bird under the sun on turn 1, so I nibbed him. Then he summoned every bird under the sun on my turn, and I nibbed him again. But still lost because M-Pen is just too freaking good against like monsters. It was 29 players. I went 4-1 in Swiss, got second. I got $70 in credit and a play mat, which I think I'll put in the picture so at least you can see that. I didn't put it even here. Well, that's kind of stupid. And of course, played Sky Striker. So it was a fun event. Great thing. It was a 100% store credit payout. Super cool. If you guys have any questions or anything or Theorycraft you want to like comment, feel free to let me know. I don't know. I really like Sky Striker. The deck's just so versatile still. And it's still just like, I think it's going to be relevant for years to come. Like, and obviously Konami loves Sky Striker, so it's not going anywhere. All right, see you guys.